Alan, I'm looking right at you here. Maybe you can kind of start, and then we'll just kind of work our way down the end of the panel. Why don't we introduce ourselves first? And in terms of testimony, if you could try to keep that brief as possible. We do have it right here in front of us. So thank you. Alan.
3 minutes each.
3 minutes each. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, senators, for having me today. My name is Allan Gandelman. There we go. As I sit here today, I wear many hats in New York cannabis. I'm an organic vegetable farmer, an AUCC cultivator, a processor. I am a member of the state's Cannabis Advisory Board, and I'm also the founder and the current board president of the Cannabis Association of New York. CANY is the largest cannabis trade association in the state. We have hundreds of members stretching across the supply chain, from cultivators to retailers to ancillary businesses. I'm just going to talk about a couple broad things in terms of long-term solutions for the market and some short-term solutions. I won't go too in-depth in them because you've already gone through a lot of these things. But I think, for the market to survive and stabilize over the coming years, there's really a few long-term things we need to look at. We need to adjust the cannabis potency tax. We need to fix our marketing and advertising regulations and laws and make them friendlier so that smaller businesses can market and advertising while allowing positive consumer education. And we also need to address license size and vertical allowances for some of the largest operators in the state. So in terms of tax, you've heard a lot about it today, but one thing you didn't hear today is that at the current potency tax rate for flower, that tax equals to about $1 million per acre that a farmer grows, and each farmer is allowed to grow up to 1 acre. That is more money in tax than the farm actually sells in cannabis. In terms of marketing, there's a lot of restrictions on businesses that they can't educate consumers about their products. And so customers are really just going online and shopping for potency and price. And so that is very contrary to the goals of the MRTA, and it's very contrary to all of the public health things that we've been talking about. Also, the marketing regulations, the way they are, they're really preventing dispensaries from marketing and advertising in their own neighborhoods. So especially the ones that are surrounded by illicit shops, they cannot get to their customers. And we have to look at how we allocate canopy. There's enough current supply for years to come. And so at the same time, we're allowing a small group of large companies to enter the market with 10 times the canopy that the next size license has available to them. So this is just going to create more of a supply problem. And we must continue to find ways to provide support and relief to all the small farms and the businesses who took the risk over the last 18 months and struggle every day. We need to continue the Cannabis Growers Showcase. The state needs to create a fund for cultivators and for card dispensaries to continue and help them operate. And we need to pass the Cannabis as an Agricultural Crop bill. And I think a lot of these solutions can be done, and they could be done pretty quickly.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it.
So all those same questions, if you knew that in fact it's the legislature and the governor who are actually responsible for those decisions, would you rate us the same way?
You would get the same rating. Yeah, and I'd like to point out one of the reasons that all these farms thought there would be all these stores open is because the governor, specifically herself, last fall said, we'll have 20 stores open by this date and 20 stores every month. That was from that office. So I think I'd also just like to be fair in terms of not only bashing one government agency, but I do think responsibility needs to be shared for all of them.
Thank you. Given
that would be very
and
helpful.
I know a number of you, I guess Alan's testimony first, maybe just because you went first, you want to get rid of the tax that is based on the potency. Have you looked at different states' models? And what states do you actually think have a more rational tax model? Because as I said before, yes, it's my bill. And when it got to tax, it was the one place we couldn't move the governor. And to be honest, in that final night, said, okay, let's just get this bill done finally after 7 years. And then when things don't work out right with taxation, we'll fix them afterwards. So I don't think we, the legislature, were specifically tied into anything. And even today, I'm like, it would be nice if we actually got any taxes at all, because based on the data, we're not really collecting any taxes. So I'm very interested in looking at what models have other states used, or Canada, I guess, was brought up at one time earlier today, to look at, because if the proposal is just don't tax us at all, that's probably not going to happen.
Right.
So I'm interested in what you all think is a better model based on any research anybody's done.
Okay, so there's a lot of different ways to go that are from super basic to really complicated. I'm just going to address your comment about the revenue, because every time we talk to the tax people or anyone that you'll hear from Department of Budget, they want revenue neutral tax proposals. And I think that's an insane ask. One, there's no revenue. Two, cannabis moves at light speeds. So what might have made sense 3 years ago does not make sense today, just because cannabis is evolving so quick as an industry, state by state, and then also hopefully at the federal level. If you look at the most simple ways to collect tax, you're looking at Massachusetts. There's a 20% tax at the register and nothing on the supply chain. We heard today from the tax department that's not possible here, because we do need a supply side tax. There are states who will just tax the distributors at 2% on whatever that invoice is and be done with it. And then raise the excise tax a little bit higher than the 13% we currently have at the register. So there's a lot of different ways to do this depending on the goals. Back then, Senator Krueger, what you were talking about, we had, I remember accepting potency tax because the public health outcries were that if you tax potency, we'll save public health. Well, I think what we've heard today is public health is more about the illicit market and about actual enforcement than it is about taxes. And putting a sin tax on cannabis just simply does not work, and it's just the wrong approach. So I think there's multiple ways to do this that actually make it a lot easier on the businesses and on the state to actually collect the taxes, because what's the point of taxing something that you can't actually get the money? And I will also mention, as a cultivator and a processor, it takes my bookkeepers and myself days every quarter to figure out potency tax, because it is insanely complicated and really, really difficult. And if we could barely figure it out and we're a small business, what's going to happen when there's thousands and thousands of more businesses trying to pay this tax quarterly? It's going to just be an impossible thing to overcome. And it's putting a real burden, and the burden isn't only like the dollars. I'm not saying let's not tax cannabis. The burden isn't necessarily the dollars, it's the time that it takes and the stress that you're not going to do it right, because we make so many different products. We make 90 different SKUs. The potency changes every day by batch, and it is just really, really difficult thing to track.
Thank you. Does anybody else want?
And on the potency tax, just as somebody who's pretty ignorant about the entire market situation, I would assume that the more potent product was, the higher the price would be, and that you could just use price as a proxy for taxing potency. Is that reasonable? Because it seems like you could simplify this dramatically and have the same rough result.
Yeah, I would say yes, that is correct. Higher potency products cost more money, and so they're just going to be higher priced at the register.
Yes. Not seeing nodding heads. Okay. One of the ways that I think the Office of Cannabis Management has done a good job of trying to reduce the strain is the Cannabis Growers Showcase. You heard me ask some questions this morning of OCM about that. Have any of you participated in the CGS process? And if you could say if that's been helpful in your work with processors, and then obviously card retailers who are doing the point of sale. And would you be supportive if it was extended beyond December 31st of this year? You can comment on that. Open question to the panel.
I mean, we've participated in CGS as a cultivator and a processor, and we have a couple more that we're doing. And yeah, they've definitely been helpful, and they seem to be extra helpful where there are no other card stores around them. So that's been really nice. And I'll say that, you know, they're also a really great place to educate consumers about our products, because we are, as I mentioned in my testimony, we're not allowed to do education in stores to the customers about our sun-grown, sustainable cannabis. That's currently not allowed. So we have no access to the customers. And so the CGS is actually the only place where we could differentiate our products currently.
Yes, I would like to ask just quickly one follow-up. I'm cognizant of time. Particularly for outdoor grow, do you feel like outdoor grow is incentivized or embraced currently by OCM, or do you feel through especially recent regulations that it's disincentivized?
I'll start that one. Okay, so two things. One, I think they made a mistake on outdoor grow with the licensing fees. The outdoor 1 acre licensing fees are way higher than mixed light or anything else, or even tier 1 or tier 2 indoor. So I think I'm going to chalk that up to an oversight. I think the OCM has actually listened to the AUCCs when it comes to transitioning licenses. Some farms want to move from outdoor grows into mixed light or into micro business, and you know, that is allowed now, so that's great. Some farms, like, you know, myself, we're keeping our outdoor grow because we're vegetable farmers and have been for almost 15 years, and that's just what we know how to do, and we'll continue doing it. So that's been great. So I think it really depends where you kind of came into the program and where you sit on that supply chain.